Hey everyone, it's Mother Mantis. I am back with another Dragon Age video for you. I'm putting together our dinner here real quick, but let's talk about Dragon Age, and in specific, let's talk about Solas. He's so easy to overlook at first. A humbly dressed companion in homespun, a male elven mage apostate with no markings to denote allegiance to a particular clan or elven god. He comes across as thoughtful, with a polite manner, a calm voice, and a reserved demeanor. He enters your life rather quietly, in the midst of a lot of chaos. He's not really remarkable at first glance. But even as you are thrust into the center of everything, Solas will remain on the periphery. Once you arrive at Haven, Solas again will stay on the edge, far away from the center of camp. He's there if you want to seek him out, but otherwise, he's not even very noticeable. He's off to the side. You have to seek him out if you want to speak to him. In other words, meeting Solas doesn't look or feel all that noteworthy, given the bigger picture of what's happening around you. I mean, consider it. You first meet Iron Bull while he's battling it out with a group of bad guys on a stormy, moody beach as the waves crash and a dragon battles a troll nearby. Our first meeting with Dorian is set against fighting Darkspawn in the Chantry. Sarah makes a fairly dramatic entrance, and others, too. We meet in these highly charged moments. But we meet one of the most important characters in the entire story in this offhanded, by the way sort of fashion. Solas is a puzzle. He's gentle and fierce, reserved yet emotionally deep, deliberate but conflicted, and ultimately he's both kind and cruel. All of the relationships and romances in Dragon Age are interesting to one degree or another, but what makes Solas's romance in particular wholly unique from those of the other companions across the trilogy is that the only way you ever get a really nearly complete picture of who Solas is to have romanced him. This is not the case with the other characters. If you have high friendship, approval, or even disapproval, you can still walk away knowing who they are, even if you don't romance them. But unless you play an elf and you romance Solas, you actually end up knowing very little about him. And so that, of course, is the premise I'm using here. I romanced Cullen several times before I did a playthrough with an elven inquisitor and romanced Solas, and there's quite a difference in between how he relates to you as a human versus an elf, even if you have high approval with him. He doesn't reveal himself to most people, even those he likes and respects. You have to romance him to learn certain things about him. Of course, by then it's too late. Considering that the working title for Dragon Age 4 is Dreadwolf Rises, it's pretty clear that Solas has a large role to play in that game. Solas approaches the Inquisition in its early days after the explosion at the Temple of Sacred Ashes, and he offers his services. He heals the prisoner who escaped from the Fade, he stabilizes the Mark, and saves the future Inquisitor's life, becoming in the process a steadfast companion to the Inquisition. Posing as an apostate from a small village, Solas does not identify with either the Dalish or the City Elves, claiming that he spent his days wandering the wilderness and exploring the Fade. He doesn't talk much about himself, although he's more than willing to discuss his journeys across the Fade with anyone willing to ask him. In Inquisition, Solas works on a mural in his space below the library, a hand-painted tribute to the world around him. Unbeknownst to the Inquisitor, however, Solas is hiding his true nature in plain sight. When Corypheus reveals himself at Haven, it's Solas who nudges the Inquisitor towards Skyhold, explaining in a private conversation that the orb that the Darkspawn Magister wanted back was, in fact, an elven artifact of great power called a foci. But before the endgame commences, Solas breaks it off with his lover, confessing that he cannot continue the relationship, but he never gives any real reason for dumping her. In the Trespasser DLC, even a romanced Inquisitor who offers to help him on the solitary path he's chosen is shut down. However, at the end of the game, and particularly during the DLC Trespasser, his true nature is revealed as being Fen'Harel, thus making him the overarching antagonist and responsible for the plight of the modern elves. According to Dalish lore, Fen'Harel was kin to the Evanuris and their opposites, the Forgotten Ones, and he moved freely between them until one day he tricked them both into a false truce, locking them away by raising the veil between the Fade and the mortal world. His supposed betrayal of both clans of gods by sealing them away in their respective realms, never again to interact with the mortal world, is sometimes used to explain why the elven gods, particularly the benevolent creators, did not intervene to prevent the fall of Arlathan to the Tevinter Imperium. According to Solas himself, his original name was Solas, and he worked in rebellion against the other Evanuris who were constantly fighting among themselves for greater and greater power. He fought for the elven people, but when the Evanuris murdered Mythal, whom Solas believed to be the best of them, he punished them by raising the veil and locking them away from the mortal world. Solas explains that he was too weak to unlock the foci after waking from his long slumber. He knows that he should pay the price for his actions, but the people need him. Mythal will chastise him for giving his orb to Corypheus, but she then also gives her essence to him, or he takes it, and she collapses in his arms and turns to stone. Mythal's power now combined with his own, Solas is again strong in magic. Dalish elves generally consider Fen'Harel an evil god. Fen'Harel, also known as Dreadwolf, is known commonly among the Dalish elves as their pantheon's god of betrayal and rebellion. Though meant to be an insult, Solas tells you that he took the name Dreadwolf as a badge of pride, as it inspired hope in his friends and fear in his enemies as he fought against these false gods. In fact, mortal mages, he tells you, called the Evanuris. Now translated by the Dalish as a word for trickster, it's interesting to note that the Dreadwolf's title of Arlathan may have actually meant rebel, not trickster. It's revealed in the Temple of Mythal that their beliefs about Fen'Harel were overstated and that he was more focused on rebellion than betrayal. He freed many elven slaves from their masters, those who were marked to slavery by the Valislan markings on their faces. Mind you, this is before the Tevinter conquered the already fatally injured Arlathan and enslaved the surviving elves. The Dalish now wear these markings, not knowing or understanding their true origins. In the past, it's said that the elves called upon Fen'Harel for aid and advice even though he was known to be capricious and to usually demand some sort of unexpected price in return. In spite of this, offerings of thanks were often given for Fen'Harel's help. Since the fall of Arlathan, however, this practice has fallen out of favor, and in the modern day, statues of Fen'Harel are set facing away from any Dalish camp as a reminder to the Dalish that they must always be wary, and you'll see those statues pretty often as you quest throughout the world. When the veil was created, its inception stripped the ancient elves of their immortality and destroyed their connection to magic, resulting in the elves that we meet in-game that are either among the nomad-like Dalish or the impoverished city elves living in alienages. When confronted by the Inquisitor, Solas tells you that had he not raised the veil and cut the Evanuris off from the world, they would have eventually destroyed it in their lust for power anyway. He did not, however, anticipate the utter annihilation of his own people. He declares to the Inquisitor that he will now walk the path known as the Din Ansharal and restore the people no matter the cost. And the cost is great. According to Solas, the mortal world will be utterly destroyed. You may wonder if an Inquisitor who has become his lover might hold any sway over stopping him from destroying the world, but the answer, it seems, is no. As a romance option for an elven female Inquisitor, Solas is slow to warm to the idea of falling in love. He expresses worry that it's a bad idea, but eventually he does fall for the female Inquisitor, and in so doing, he revises his opinion of the people of the mortal world. A Lavellan Inquisitor who romances Solas can almost certainly break through to who he really is. Almost. Unfortunately, Solas sees this coming and he breaks up with them before they can. During the breakup, he avoids giving a valid reason, and the breakup is also sudden and a somewhat poorly handled thing. He does not seem to have planned it, which makes it one of the few instances in which Solas makes a rash choice, which speaks to his being conflicted about his feelings for her, his desire to stay with her, and his regret at hurting her. He can't be swayed from his decision, however. It does appear that a sad Llewellyn hurts him, while an angry reaction will help him stay determined. Solas apparently feels he deserves her hatred, but he's not prepared to see someone who still loves him and wants to support him. It will not, however, move him from his chosen path, one he knows must be solitary. It's an unsettling moment because you find yourself both repelled by his plan, but empathetic to his pain, and even somewhat compassionate towards him. If spoken to every step of the way, Solas predicts what Corypheus will do next with an interesting precision. For example, right before the last encounter with Corypheus, Solas says, "You have waylaid all his other plans. Now, as a petulant child, he will destroy the game board rather than admit defeat. Be ready for anything. He still believes himself a god, and gods do not fall gracefully." There's actually quite a lot of foreshadowing during the course of the game. Your other companions notice also that Solas is different, and Cole especially will make several cryptic comments that, in hindsight, seem pretty clear that he knows who Solas is, which does make sense given that Cole himself is a creature of the Fade. One of the more interesting ones, though, is a chess game that Solas and Iron Bull engage in if you take them both as companions regularly. Solas does eventually win the game, but he does so by sacrificing a lot of his pieces, no matter how important they are, including his queen. There's been a lot of discussion among fans about the fact that this seems to say a lot about Solas, especially in light of his taking Mythal's essence as she turns to stone. Solas will ask you a very poignant question. What if you woke up to find the future you shaped is worse than what it was? It's a clear implication of how he felt waking up in the physical world after he created the Fade. And although he is determined to restore the elven world of before, he doesn't actually have the best track record in terms of consequences of his actions. With Dragon Age 4 taking us to Tevinter and all of the discoveries made in Inquisition regarding the true history of the elves, I think people that romance Solas should probably brace themselves for more ugly truths about Solas, yes, but also about the Evanuris and even possibly the elven people as a whole. Will Solas's ultimate quest for elven restoration lead to another blight in Dragon Age 4, or can we stop him in time? I think it's possible that Solas's story arc leads to redemption for him. I think there's likely to be a huge twist that presents us with a world-threatening problem that we aren't even talking about right now. With the books, especially the anthology Tevinter Nights, lining up so well with the ending of Inquisition's DLC Trespasser, we know Dragon Age will be set in Tevinter and the surrounding areas, but I wonder about Solas. He's been the sole focus of attention so far in the trailers, but Dragon Age has some of the most intricate lore in gaming, and Bioware loves to tell stories of love and loss, gain and sacrifice, betrayal and redemption. There's so much lore to draw from and so many threads between Solas, the Evanuris, the Forgotten Ones, the Old Gods, the Tevinters, the Chantry, Red Lyrium, and corruption that I wonder if Solas is going to end up being a story of sacrifice and redemption set against a world-threatening struggle that we aren't even clued onto yet. Do you think Solas is the overarching villain for Dragon Age 4? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And let me know as well if you like these Dragon Age videos, if you'd like to see more of them, or if you'd like me to focus on something else. As always, thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your day. Cheers.